Coming up on Tech News Today, Google's robot car crashes, the court won't give Spain back its seized domains, and tablets are kind of dead, maybe. We'll tell you whether that's true or not next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is episode 300 of Tech News Today for Friday, August 5th, 2011. Tech News Today is brought to you by Squarespace.com, the fast and easy way to create a high-quality website or blog. For a free trial and 10% off your new account for 6 months, go to Squarespace.com and use the offer code TNT8. Welcome to the 300th installment of Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Iyaz Akhtar.
And we have a couple of special guests joining us. First of all, from France 24, digital platforms editor Eric Olander. Good to have you along, Eric.
Good evening from a wet, rainy Paris.
I love Paris in wet, rainy conditions. I love it
especially in the summertime.
It's the only way to have it.
Also, Clayton Morris, co-host of Fox & Friends and owner of Grizzly Productions. Welcome, Clayton. Good to have you along.
Hey, thanks for having me. Always great to be here.
Good to have a packed house today. We didn't think we were going to get Iyaz, but his appointment's cleared up.
Yeah, I don't know how to take a day off very well.
And he doesn't take days off.
Nope. So I showed up to work for no reason.
All right. Well,
before we get started, Tom,
right,
can I just say something in honor of the show 300?
Yeah, did we get a cupcake or something? We got a little...
There's something behind this laptop.
Well, I just wanted to say, tonight we tack in hell.
It's a pie.
Tonight we
hell.
eat this small pie in hell. Right here.
I'll drink to that.
Right there.
I do love pie. You guys
Is that
know
somebody's
me.
leftovers that you took out of the refrigerator?
No. Because they kind of look like that. No, it's
We can
uneaten.
give it to Sarah.
It's uneaten. Yeah, that'll
It almost works.
Serve in front of Sarah right there.
Looks like a bloomin' onion.
What kind of pie is it? Is it cherry? Strawberry
rhubarb. Fancy.
Wow. Okay, I can't wait to dig into that. But first, the tech news. Google's self-driving car got in an accident earlier this week. A website known as Jalopnik got a tip-off and a picture of it. It looks like the drive-yourself Prius rear-ended another car. Now, Google has responded and said that safety is our top priority. One of our goals is to prevent fender benders like this one, which occurred while a person was manually driving the self-driving car. Google says they have logged 160,000 miles autonomously without incident. In other words, what they're implying here is if the car had been driving itself, this wouldn't have happened.
The problem is people. That's what Google's at least saying. But then again, we don't know that for sure yet, right? This is Google's official statement saying somebody else was actually at the wheel, and our technology is sound. That's what they're going with here.
Either that or their robot cars are dangerous and they're trying to cover it up.
That's true. And does Google have a black box on these things? Do we know if they're accurate and whether or not we can go back and check and say, looks like no, the driver was actually texting and looking at photos of their baby while
he was on Plus, of course, trying to go look. I'm actually driving the Prius myself instead of the machine, and it all broke down.
I love the police officer. You can tell he has no idea what the hell to do. At the scene photo, he's standing there. He's like, I don't know what to do here. This car is driving itself. I don't know who to give a ticket to.
Well,
I love that. Google's saying, listen, everything's fine. It was because that woman was driving the car. That's why it got rear-ended. Don't worry. The robot is safe. And the police officer's going, I don't know who to ticket.
Yeah, can I talk to the robot, please? I need to interview that.
I need to hear the robot's
I need to get a statement. From the robot.
I didn't do it.
I think now, and y'all are right. We only have Google's word for this at this point. We don't have any police reports or anything. But I think it probably is more likely that it is the human that caused this, and that is exactly what I've been saying for years. Is the robots will drive cars much more safely. Humans are horrible drivers.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables. You can be distracted very quickly, and the thing is, the cars these days kind of pay attention to car lengths, the actual spaces between vehicles and everything, so that the odds of the actual programming failing at this point. But then again, 160,000 miles, perhaps there's a chance that it will go wrong once, you know?
Do we know what OS is running on that car? I mean, if that's a Microsoft, that thing could have crashed easily.
Chrome. It's got to be, right?
It's Vista.
It's got to be.
We're all doomed.
It has all kinds of drivers built into Vista.
It's most likely
And they don't work.
Ubuntu would be my guess. You know what? I don't know. I actually did know what operating system they're using on this, and I can't remember. But I think it is a Linux variant, if I remember correctly. So, but it wasn't the robot. It was the human. All right, some less lighthearted, not that a car crash is lighthearted, but some more serious news. New York law firm Reese Richmond, along with Milberg, has filed class action against a company called Paxfire, which makes a search hijacking tech, and several ISPs over redirecting searches to company pages instead of a page of search results. Christian Kreibich and Nicholas Weaver at the International Computer Science Institute in Berkeley, who discovered this redirection and have been monitoring it for several months. They put out a press release in conjunction with the EFF, suggesting that they think the process generates revenues for several ISPs around the country. And these look to be DSL providers. What they're doing is, say you put in the word Apple or the word Amazon. Instead of taking you to the search results in Bing or Yahoo, they were doing it with Google. Google complained, it made them stop. Your search results don't show up. They take you straight to the page for Apple. Or for instance, when you search WSJ, instead of taking you to search results for Wall Street Journal, they take you to the Wall Street Journal subscription page.
And this is happening with any browser. This isn't like you installed your ISP's like branded browser. This is if you're using anything, and they were actually just hijacking it in the meantime.
Yeah, so if you're on Cavalier, Cincinnati Bell, Cogent, Frontier, Hughes, IBBBS, only two Bs, Insight Broadband, Megapath, Paytech, RCN, Wide Open West, or EXO, they were all caught doing this, according to these Berkeley researchers.
And I reached out to a couple lawyer friends of mine who said that, it sounds like that this could be, wiretapping violations. Of course, a number of people have joined these lawsuits, but it's hard to say. You wonder how far this goes and how deeply rooted it is and exactly what they were doing with the information. And were they allowing, in some sort of terms of service, allowing customers to know that they were doing this? From what it appears like, I don't think that that's the case. Certainly when you get your new cable, right, you sign up for cable, you're moving into a new place, you sign that little yellow sheet that they give you, they rip off the Verizon Fios paper. Are you looking over anything there? So unless it's buried in some sort of terms of service somewhere, I don't know.
Well, how much of this is because the ISPs are getting so confident that they can get away with things like this because consumers don't have a choice of ISPs in most markets? There's maybe one other alternative, but it's not that much better. So is this just becoming, the norm for ISPs to abuse their customers because we have to take it?
There was a lot of controversy a while back over ISPs like Comcast replacing Page Not Found, replacing 404 pages with their own custom pages that had ads on it. That's one thing where you're like, I was looking for something in particular and I didn't find it, and Comcast is replacing someone's informational page with their own. So that has lasted, that has survived, even though a lot of people were upset about that. This is taking it another step further, saying, yeah, we know, you were at Bing searching for WSJ, and maybe you wanted the Wikipedia page, but we're not going to give you that choice. We're going to take you right to the subscription page for the Wall Street Journal. It's guessing what you want. Maybe it's right in many cases, but not all. I would think the companies would have a big problem with this.
I would think in a large number of cases, a lot of people, if you were to say Amazon book, I mean, you wanted to go to Amazon anyway, so I'm sure that they can feel like they're flying under the radar for the most part. But the fact is that if they're using affiliate links to take you to Amazon, then they're getting money. And I'd be interested to know how many of these companies on the other side have any idea that this is going on. I mean, is Amazon paying out an ISP for doing something like this? They certainly wouldn't want to.
They may be paying them and not realizing it. If they're using affiliate links, you can use an affiliate link for anything. So I don't know, Clayton. It's a good question whether this is actually illegal or not. Obviously, some people are going to pursue this in the courts, but it's certainly unethical. If I sign up for internet service, you should be delivering me internet service. You shouldn't, without really explicit consent, give me a different page than the one I'm expecting. Again, I think Bing and Yahoo have a big beef here to go to ISPs and say, wait a minute, you're messing with the delivery of our traffic.
But back to Clayton's point, though, isn't it only unethical if it's not in the terms of service? I mean, the thing is, those can change all the time. Sometimes you get that printout and it says, terms of service can change. Check this website occasionally, like anybody ever does it. But they do tell you
that's
that.
Why I say it's unethical. It may not be illegal because they've made it in the terms of service.
It's a jerk move.
But not to tell me about it and not to deliver. I mean, that's just a violation of the fundamental principle. Not to deliver the page that I'm expecting.
Could you go around this by using your own DNS and that kind of thing?
There's several ways. You could use your own DNS. That might help. Also, if you use HTTPS everywhere to help make a secure connection to every site you can, it will prevent them from spying and seeing what request you're making, and that can help as well. Definitely try to, that's just good practice anyway, to make secure connections where you can.
One of the things when you look at Frontier, too, if you want to actually look at the terms of service, you need to actually punch in information about where you live. Your terms of service are based, I wonder if the terms of service are based on your location, and if they're selling data based on what part of the country you're actually living in. Doing it by zip code, doing it by phone number, and it's regional.
That's a lot more valuable. That's a lot more valuable information to sell to advertisers if they are selling these directly to companies. A judge in the U.S., federal judge Paul Crotty, has rejected a petition by the Spanish company Puerto 80 for the return of the domain names rojadirecta.com and rojadirecta.org. These were seized by immigration. We've talked about this before in Tech News Today, where immigration goes and seizes domain names accused of copyright infringement. This Spanish company has been found innocent, or at least been ruled legal by the Spanish courts, and so they went to court in the U.S. and said, look, we want our domain names back. The judge felt that Puerto 80 had registered alternative domains like rojadirecta.me, rojadirecta.es, and that they therefore can use their large internet presence to simply distribute information about their new domain name to its customers, and they rejected any kind of First Amendment defense. EFF's Corin McSherry says in a press release that the Supreme Court has ruled otherwise in the past. She says, we are aware of no general principle that freedom of speech may be abridged when the speaker's listeners could come by his message by some other means. That is from the High Court. That was not Corin McSherry. That is from the Supreme Court in 1976.
Yeah, I mean, look, you guys should just shut down TWiT.tv and your message can be received by other means. If someone needs to take it over, why not? You guys could send out a newsletter for Tech News Today.
Sure. Yeah, we could print it out on napkins.
We'll just start twit.me. Same thing, right?
Yeah.
The thing about freedom of speech is, it's not absolute, right? You can't do it everywhere. There's if you're in private locations.
Can't yell fire in a crowded theater.
Well, not just that, but if you want to protest, you're not supposed to be doing it on private property because that's a trespass at a certain point.
Right.
So the thing is, what the U.S. is basically claiming is that they have, I guess, domain over these URLs, right? They're saying this is ours. We can say, look, you can't say what you want to say here, but you can over there. That's fine. That's a public park over there. You go fight over the .me, argue there, but not. It seems a little strange that the U.S. is kind of overreaching, I think.
And that's the jurisdiction question that comes up when you're sitting overseas and you see these kinds of court cases come down. People, particularly here in Europe and also in Asia, look at this and say, is the U.S. overreaching its authority right now? And it's the kind of thing that when you put that into combination with things like, Twitter CEO Dick Costello joining the, the National Security Telecommunications Advisory Committee with Obama, you start to get the impression overseas that the internet and the U.S. are kind of one. And for countries like China, Iran, Russia, even here in Europe, where there's a lot of skepticism of the U.S. control of the internet, it really plays into the hands of people who say they want to control and censor. So this is a very different perception here in Europe than it is in the U.S. on a story like this.
I think it brings up some eminent domain stories that we've been covering here in the United States, particularly one that stands out to me in near Chicago O'Hare's airport. And there's a cemetery there, and family buries their family there 100 years ago, 50 years ago. And now they just decide, the government seizes the property and decides they want to move everyone out of the cemetery so they can extend a portion of the runway in Chicago. And you wonder, at what point does this become overreaching? At what point does this open up sort of a Pandora's box for the government to come in and swoop up and grab any sort of domains that they want? I always think that these sort of things are leave me scratching my head, and I always wonder, is it going to lead to something bigger?
Are you implying that the government wants to start a sports linking site? There's some kind of eminent
somehow.
Yeah, exactly. They just raised the debt ceiling. They got to make that revenue up somewhere.
We need $14 trillion, Tom. We got to figure out a way to do it. Let's open a sports book.
Now, interestingly, the judge did say in rejecting the petition that he was rejecting because the main purpose of the website is to catalog links to copyrighted athletic events. So he didn't feel it met the qualifications for free speech. But he did write Puerto 80 may certainly argue this First Amendment issue in its upcoming motion to dismiss. Now, Iyaz, what could that mean? In other words, are they trying to dismiss the charges against them by ICE, and that's separate from this petition?
I don't know if I can speak with any authority on this particular matter.
Your best guess?
My best guess is that they're going to try this argument again. They're going to appeal over and over again until it gets to the Supreme Court. That's pretty much what's going on.
Well,
and this argument can be tried again.
EFF is behind them, so they're probably going to try to take it as far as they can take it. Yeah. That makes sense. All right, let's take a quick break and thank our sponsors at Squarespace. Squarespace.com is the fast and easy way to create a high-quality website or blog. If you've got a burning issue you want to get people to know about, go and start a Squarespace blog right now. It'll make you put your thumbs up like Iyaz and Sarah are. It really is.
I love Squarespace.
Hey, it's cool.
It's incredibly easy to use. It's incredibly easy to start a site, and you don't need a credit card to do it. So why not go over there and just start whatever site comes into your head and play around with it. You can even import your blogs from WordPress, Typepad, Blogger, and you can take any data. If you start something out and you like it, but you don't want to keep Squarespace, you can take your data with you later. They know they're smart enough not to try to lock you in because they know you're going to like it and you're going to stay anyway. So check it out, Squarespace.com. No credit card needed. Start building a website right now. You're going to get a beautiful website, much better website than at least somebody like me could make by just going in and hand coding. And you don't need a credit card to try it out. If you do decide to purchase the service, use the offer code TNT8 and you'll get 10% off for 6 months. At Squarespace.com, use the offer code TNT8. We thank them for their support of Tech News Today. I use Squarespace for Forecast and for Sword and Laser, and it definitely makes my life easier.
Oh, yeah. We're building our entire infrastructure on the back of Squarespace for Grizzly Productions.
Oh, really? For Grizzly? Nice.
Yeah, and ClaytonMorris.com is up there. I mean, they're all over there. And they're just so, and when we get like a lot of traffic for shows, we never have any problems that I hear about on other blogging platforms.
Right, because they adapt to the traffic. You're not hosting it on a server like you might with some programs where you install it yourself and you have to control it yourself. So, yeah, check them out, Squarespace.com. Thank them for their support. I've forgotten how to pronounce his name, Eric, so correct me if I get this wrong. Acer founder Stan Shure?
Sure. Yep.
Pretty close.
Sure it is.
Has commented that the fads for Ultrabooks and tablet PCs are short-term phenomena and urged companies in the notebook supply chain to come out with more value-added products through innovation. Now, it sounds at first like he's saying, tablets are just a fad. He does give Apple some credit, saying, look, Apple has done a world of good in tablets. They've innovated. But he says PCs are the base of the IT industry, and tablet PCs are developed from that base. So I think what he's saying is we need to not abandon the PC, but come up with other ways besides the tablet to play off of that base. But I'm not sure what he means by that.
This is interesting. I really like this discussion because we got into a bit of a debate. My friend Ross Rubin, he makes the case that from NPD Group, he thinks, and he's not fully convinced that tablets aren't yet a fad. And despite all of the success, he thinks as a category, it might still be a fad. The jury is still out on that. And I have to say, I know what he's saying. I agree. I get tablet guilt. And let me explain it this way, right? I sit down, I say to myself, you know what, I could grab my iPad right now and I could write that blog post or I could go and do that thing. But it's going to take me 1 or 2 extra steps to do it. And I find myself feeling guilty about not picking up the iPad because, right, it's supposed to be so much easier. And instead I pick up the MacBook Air or I pick up a laptop or something like that to get the work done. So I end up having tablet guilt.
I don't know. I mean, Apple's going to sell 45 million tablets this year, just Apple alone. I think this is a paradigm shift, and we're beyond a fad right now. And I think Stanley Shure and Acer, they make crappy tablets. And I think he's trying to talk about how the fact that, this is what it might sound like when the horse and buggy whip makers were talking about the cars, being not the future, in my view. I mean, this is a company that's falling behind, and this is their defense.
I don't know if it's a fad either. I mean, there was original crop of tablet PCs that showed up in the early 2000s. Those were a complete flash in the pan. Yeah, those things lasted for about 1.5 years. And what Apple did with the iPad and what Android is doing is they redefined the interface for touch versus just throwing a desktop in there. So whether this is a fad, I don't think that's the case. But what I think the Acer founder is trying to put here is you can't just copy everything. This is what's going on right now. PCs are still important because you can't just use tablets for everything right now because when you try to put a full desktop on there, we've seen what happens.
And that's why Clayton feels the tablet guilt.
There you go.
Right. Yeah, there's that lack of, you don't have the full desktop experience. And I guess what I'm saying to Eric's point, and it makes a great point about the sales numbers, is perhaps, is it the form factor? Have we seen the final version of this form factor? Or the discussion I was having before about this is, well, is a tablet defined by a 9.7-inch screen? Or is it some sort of Star Trekian style paper that we roll up like a Dead Sea Scroll and throw in our bags? And, is that what we're talking about 5-6 years from now? So maybe it's the form factor that he's referring to as the fad right now.
Well, I think the platform is... Oh, go ahead, Sarah.
No, I was just going to say, as far as tablets go, I mean, if I can just throw my 2 cents into whether it's a fad or not,
Host
definitely
an iPad
not
today.
a fad. Right. Hey, I have an iPad. I like it very much. If I imagine the iPad goes away tomorrow, there would be a lot of things I would miss about it that I don't think that I could achieve, even with the littlest Air that's really portable and easy to use, even though it's got a full keyboard, which obviously tablets don't. But I agree with Clayton that we are seeing something that's new. It's exciting right now, but it's limited. It's hard to use for certain things, and I think that, something that you could roll up in the future, for example, that becomes that much more portable is the way it's going to go, or it'll never really get out of that consumption device plus type of category.
Now, then the other side of this, he also mentioned Ultrabooks, the MacBook Air being the most successful of these. And a side note, Intel has sent a reference bill of materials to its partners with costs for making 21mm notebooks and 18mm notebooks, nanometer, not millimeter. Why does it say mm?
I was like, it's like, that's a really small notebook.
Very small. Well,
not helpful.
That's 8 millimeters, sir.
21 is $475 to $650, and the 18 is $493 to $710. So these prices are what you would pay Intel to just get the base materials to manufacture your notebook. And what Digitimes reports is that a lot of people find that they can't wholesale build what is called an Ultrabook for less than the Apple retail price of the MacBook Air, because Apple has done such a good job of locking up their supply line.
I mean, Intel wants the Ultrabooks to succeed, because I really think that for laptops, that's really the future. Even though they don't call it Ultrabooks, they're really just ultra-light notebooks. Those were always so expensive, and Sony has had a bunch of those for a while.
It is millimeters. It's the thickness. Okay.
Okay, so back to this. These ultra-portable laptops just have never really made it because they've been underpowered and very expensive. But now this seems like where laptops are going, because it does more than a netbook does, right? Because you have Sandy Bridge now, but it's got the portability of a tablet. Because I know sometimes I'm just thinking, a MacBook Air and a tablet would be good for about 90% of the people I know. Maybe not for me.
Right. I mean, that was what was holding you. Bring up a great point. That was what was holding back the early MacBook Airs, right? They were underpowered and ridiculously expensive.
Mm-hmm. And now they're not. And now they've come back. They're still not cheap. They're not a bargain, but they are affordable. $999.
Right, it's the $2,000 base price. I think it started.
Yeah, with. That's your base price now. That's a huge difference. 22 nanometer Ivy Bridge CPUs in the 2012 Haswell base models, and an 18 millimeter and 21 millimeter thick notebook reference bombs. There we go. Got that figured out. All right, round the horn on this next one. Pottermore is being hit by what every headline writer worth his salt is going to make a Harry Potter pun about. But essentially, it's malware, scams. GFI Labs' Christopher Boyd had exposed a number of them circling around the ebook-centered site, which started going into pre-beta this week. You have to do a challenge from now. It was earlier this week until August 6th, and if you pass the Magic Quill Challenge, you get early access to Pottermore. And because of this limitation, a lot of scams are popping up around the sale of Pottermore accounts, some legitimate, some not. In fact, some are legitimate sales of the accounts that then ask you to fill out a survey that downloads malware onto your computer at the very end. Around the horn, starting with you, Eric, how surprised and or affected are you?
Not surprised, not affected, but I'm just trying to picture, parents sitting down with their kids to the Pottermore site, and bam, some porn site comes up and just tragically ruins all of their impression of Pottermore.
Clayton Morris, how about you? Anything we could have done to prevent this?
No, I don't think we could have prevented it, but I am not surprised by it. But my family will be affected by it because my wife is an incredibly big Harry Potter fan. So if I'm not able to get online over the next few months because all of our computers on our network have been infected, you'll know exactly why, because my wife is a Potter freak.
Sarah Lane, should you be allowed to buy a third-party Pottermore account?
Well, it doesn't surprise me that people are doing this. I mean, the Pottermore folks have said, please don't do this. We're only giving out a few accounts, in a limited times, and people who really want them should be allowed to get them. So let's not scalp the stuff. At the same time, I think don't assume that it's the kids that are going to get confused by all of this. Potter fans span many age ranges, and some of the older people might be even more confused than the youngers.
Iyaz, Akhtar, is there a magic bullet to stop this stuff from happening?
No. There's the answer to that.
You got the easy question.
No, there's no magic bullet. This is what happens. When anything's popular, you're going to try to run a scam on it, right? Simple thing.
Yeah.
Get a free iPad, too. You see all that stuff, too. Free Pottermore.
Yeah.
All right.
And this is rife for that sort of thing because it's incredibly popular.
Would like a Google Plus invite, only $30,000.
Forget Google Plus. What about Google Wave? People were selling Google Wave invites on eBay, weren't they?
I'm going to combine
that was a bad investment.
A package, a Spotify invite with a Google Plus and a Pottermore thing, and only for $19.99.
Could I get a refund on PayPal for my Google Wave invite on eBay?
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's finish up with the IDC numbers for worldwide phone sales. According to research firm Apple is now the top smartphone seller in the world. 20.3 million iPhones shipped worldwide during the second quarter of 2011, helping them secure a 19.1% market share, putting them in front of Nokia. Nokia saw its shipments decline 30.4% during the second quarter, from 24 million last year to 16.7 million this year. And Nokia ceded the #1 position for the first time since IDC has tracked this kind of stuff. It is the first time that Nokia has shipped 20 million less, or below the 20 million unit mark for the first time since the third quarter of 2009. Nokia has this consolation. They're still the leading overall mobile phone shipper with 88.5 million handsets, but Samsung's catching them to them in the overall market with 70.2 million.
And the thing is, Samsung from last year over year, they only sold 3.6 million phones or units smartphones last year, and this year 17.3 million. And that's a huge jump. Like, this just shows you that Samsung, with its strategy of, we'll put any operating system, we don't care what it is, we just want to make hardware. It's Windows Phone 7, we'll put Android on it, we'll put on Bada because they have their own operating system, and they're doing really well. I mean, I'm surprised that, this is why Nokia should be looking at this as a model, going, all right, maybe we could do more than one operating system, and that's why they're sticking with Windows Phone 7. But Symbian, that won't be around.
Nokia's
and that HTC number growth was also impressive as well. I mean, HTC seems to be shooting up there in the top.
Yeah, there's good news even for RIM. RIM grew in these numbers. They didn't grow as fast as everybody else, so they slipped down in the rankings by 1. But they still grew, 10.7%. And a lot of people are counting RIM out in the same way as Nokia. Nokia fell 30%. I mean, they're bottoming out. This is a disastrous point for Nokia, and they have said, bear with us, this is going to happen. They've tried to warn people, but we're going to start coming out with Windows phones in 2012, and we're going to start building things back up. So they've been right so far. And
how many years will they have to play catch up to get to where the iPhone sales have gone? If you looked at Asimco's numbers earlier this year, I think back in March, was pretty remarkable, right? Because if Apple sits with a 20% market share right now, and you look at where they're going, the predictions for iPhone 5 sales could top out of 100 million. Yeah. If you look at the charts and you look at the numbers, you saw this same quarterly growth of iPhone sales year over year since the iPhone launch. So there isn't, if you stay by that same metric, that's why Wall Street's so bullish on Apple. Yeah. Then you're looking at 100 million iPhone 5 sales.
Essentially selling 2 models. Apple has become the top-selling smartphone in the world. And nobody else is limiting themselves to 2 models. That's whether you hate Apple or love them, you got to admit that's pretty impressive. Let's move on to the news fuse. It's a quiet news fuse. But the explosion is never quiet. Today, Viacom reported that affiliate revenues grew 20% domestically and 16% worldwide. Why do you care as a tech fan? Well, the growth is due in part to digital distribution, like the deals they've struck with Netflix and Hulu. Viacom also indicated more deals are coming, and some of them are with traditional partners, but for digital distribution. Cable, satellite, IPTV providers all want to have these TV everywhere portals on the web.
100%. Spam King Sanford Wallace, that's the man who allegedly phished Facebook accounts to send out, 27 million spam messages. Remember him? He was a real gem. Is facing federal fraud charges. Wallace could face up to 16 years in prison, in fact. His court date is set for August 22nd, and this is his first criminal charge, so kind of sucks to be the king if you're old Sanford.
King of
in this
spam.
situation. Yeah.
The FBI just launched a free iPhone app that stores all kinds of important information about your child, like his name, height, weight, along with his or her picture. In a horrible case that your child goes missing, you can use the app to send that information to the authorities. Support for other smartphones is coming soon.
That's good, because kids go missing from parents who don't use iPhones.
Yeah, you go into a panic and you want to be able to.
Apple CTO Tim Cook and CFO Pete Oppenheimer told RBC Capital Market analyst Mike Abramsky on Wednesday that the only way Apple would introduce a low-cost iPhone was if it were a category killer. So are you coming up with the follow-up question is, so are you coming up with a category killer? Rumors have had Apple offering a low-cost model in September. iPhone Nano, maybe? Something like that.
So I've got some news that's going to surprise you. Actually, it's not really going to surprise anybody. China has officially denied being involved in any part of Shady Rat.
No.
They said, we didn't do it. The 5-year spear phishing attack reported by McAfee Chinese officials said it is irresponsible to link China to internet hackers. So who's the state actor then, you might wonder? I'm going to go with Texas.
They're like a whole
they're U.S. No,
Well, they are a state, so maybe they were being coy at McAfee.
I want to ask Eric real quick what you make of the Shady Rat story, because we talked about it the other day, and Steve Gibson from Security Now basically said, yeah, of course, this stuff happens all the time.
It does happen all the time, and it most likely is coming from China. But the Chinese say also, too, that they're under attack as well. And so if you're sitting in China listening to the Chinese equivalent of TNT, whatever that is, they're going to sit there and talk about how many attacks are coming out from Europe and U.S. on their networks. And Chinese networks are prone to this as well. So this isn't uniquely a Chinese problem. Now, the Chinese are much more aggressive coming into the U.S. and really going after some of our prized jewels. But this is a two-way street on these types of things.
I talked to the former head of the CIA today, General Michael Hayden, who was, of course, in the CIA under President George W. Bush, and he talked about the cuts, of course, in the Defense Department. He says a lot of these cuts are fine. He said, of course, but we all have to keep our eye on China. And he said, no, we're not entering another Cold War. It's this sort of friendly picking at each other that's going on. We don't have the same relationship that we had with Soviet Russia, of course, but here we have, trade agreements and so forth. But this hacking, this sort of thing that goes on, it goes on all the time.
It's a warm, fuzzy war.
Yeah, it's a fun war.
Yeah.
I'll hack you. You go ahead and hack me back. Oh, stop
Enough
it.
with all this down war talk. Let's talk about Black Hat. Researchers at Aperture Labs, not Aperture Science, demonstrated a way to emulate a Square credit card reader without the hardware. The method turns a magnetic stripe on a credit card into an audio file that the Square app reads. In the demo, $2 was deducted using the Square app. I want my $2.
I want my $2.
That's the second time I've heard that joke today.
Really?
My neighbor across the street, we were at the zoo with my friends and my son and everything, and I borrowed $2 to get a soda. And he said, here's $2. And I said, I know where you live. I'll come over and I'll pull a better off debt on you, and I'll get my $2 back.
That's a classic. Paul Siglia is a fake, says Facebook, but this time they have evidence. Siglia is the guy who claims he owns 50% of Facebook because of an old contract he dug up. Last month, a judge ordered Siglia to let Facebook run forensic tests on most of his data. Now Facebook says it has uncovered smoking gun evidence in federal court that the purported contract at the heart of this case is a fabrication. Of course, due to confidentiality, that's all they can tell us for now. But they say it's totally fake.
You done? RIM has rolled out a new version of BB App World in the beta zone. App World 3.0 is focusing on finding apps. It sports a new home screen and, like iPhone and Android, has a more easily recognizable categories and actually promotes some of them, putting games and themes right up front instead of making you dig around in the trash for them or just
dig around in the trash.
I don't know why I said that.
All right, let's move right on to our randomizer. Eric Schoenfeld over at TechCrunch reporting that mobile ad network JumpTap has put out a very divisive map today that breaks the country down into yellow states, blue states, gray states, and graph paper states. They broke it down based state by state on the dominance of either Android, iOS, BlackBerry, or neutral. Nobody dominates. Here in California, we are a yellow state, dominated by Android. But my home state of Illinois, happily blue in Apple land with iOS.
I love how on the West Coast, there's Washington, which is Android, and then Oregon is BlackBerry. And then you go down to California, and it's Android. I don't know why Android didn't make it to Oregon.
And I'm curious by the population density, too. You look at iOS and their dominance up in Montana. And why Montana? But I used to live in Montana as a political reporter a number of years ago.
There's like 6 people there, right, Clayton?
Yeah,
so
I think it's still under 1 million people. That and Wyoming still, I think, has under 1 million people for population density. And then New York. New York is BlackBerry dominated, which surprised me.
Taking a look at this,
makes sense.
That must be Wall Street, right?
Yeah, that's Wall Street.
Well, looking at Vermont.
Yes, but there are a lot of other people that live in New York that don't live in Manhattan.
Yeah, I know.
I used to live in Vermont, and we didn't even have the iPhone as an option because AT&T was not up there until like 2000, I don't know, like 7.
Yeah.
So this is quite impressive that they've taken over all of Vermont and a lot of New England.
I'm curious if North and South Dakota can get Apple. I know when iPhone first launched, that wasn't available there either, and that would explain why BlackBerry might be dominant there because it may be the only option they have for smartphones in certain places. But I just want to say to Nevada, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Tennessee, North Carolina, Alabama, and Georgia, pick a side.
Neutral. They're using like
neutral.
Swiss phones.
Not this neutral. What are you, Symbian lovers? Come on.
They're just using.
I'm a prisoner in my own state, and I don't like it.
Fight for iOS.
You need to lobby for special rights.
That's right.
And iPhone users are oppressed in California.
It's weird. I mean, I was actually kind of surprised about California, too. Not that there aren't a lot of Android users. Obviously, there are. But it's like, I don't know. I guess everyone, iPhone hipsters, that sort of thing. I just would have thought maybe we would have gone blue. I was wrong.
The other thing here is they didn't put Alaska and Hawaii on this map.
They don't use cell phones.
It's very difficult to get a cell signal in any of those states.
That is not true. I've used my phone in Hawaii plenty. I don't know about Alaska, but
I was just in Alaska. We were in Alaska about a month ago, and in all of the major port cities, in Ketchikan and Juneau, you get fantastic, really high-speed 3G. 3G is fantastic there on AT&T. So,
yeah, nice job, Jump Tap. Just ignore them. They're just awesome states. Whatever. On to the calendar.
Oh, I guess I should don my special calendar robe for this part of the show. If you'll all pardon me.
That makes it much more professional.
This feels better. Listen, I'm in a hotel room. I got to get my kicks where I can get them. Google shut down Google Dictionary today. And if you're like, hey, did I ever use Google Dictionary? Chances are you didn't. You can still type in, define, and then whatever term you're trying to look for a definition into the Google search bar. But if you actually go to Google Dictionary, it will say, we've shut down, as well as Google Translation. So rest in peace.
Google Translation, they were putting, I interviewed the head of Google Translation, who putting a lot of resources in that. Really, really surprised that shut down. But was there really that much infrastructure involved in Google Dictionary?
I don't know. There's a lot of new words every year. It's a lot of manpower to put in the 4 extra words. I don't know.
That server space gets crowded.
Yeah, the data for both is still there and going to be used in search. They're just shutting down the front end?
The URL, yeah.
See, I prefer to just get I search for a definition, and then I've got all sorts of dictionaries. Oxford, Urban. It gives me a wide range of what I might be looking for in a definition. Starting today, AT&T will require a password for cell phone, voicemail boxes for new phones. So if you're an existing subscriber, the policy goes into effect next year, or when you upgrade, whichever comes first.
Too late to save news of the world, but
they're trying to prevent that in the future.
This is exactly
this is something they should have had in place a long time ago.
And finally, Sprint will get the Samsung Conquer 4G on August 21st. So for $100, you'll get a 1 gigahertz processor to run Gingerbread on a 3.5-inch screen. You into it? You happy?
So into it.
It's a 4G phone.
Yeah.
On Sprint.
I believe you.
Hooray.
On to the emails. TNT@twit.tv. Ben from Maine says, hey, TNT crew, love the show. There seems to be no legitimate explanation for AT&T's recent decision to throttle a percentage of users as opposed to imposing a specific cap. So I propose a reasoning as nonsensical as their decision. Get ready for this twisty logic. What we are seeing here is a brilliant move by AT&T towards the gamification of bandwidth caps. In this new model, any app that tracks your monthly data usage would be useless. Instead, we should all get get excited for AT&T's inevitable bandwidth hog leaderboards. We'll be able to compare our monthly usage against those of family and friends, thus giving data gluttons bragging rights in addition to throttled throughput. As an Android user, I can only pray I'll soon see my home screens filling with AT&T branded badges, which will only be removable with root access.
You know, AT&T did this. I thought that this would create a ton of malware. So you would have some kind of app that constantly pings something, so that way you're never in the 5%.
You know, it wouldn't be a bad idea. They should make a reverse leaderboard. Like, these are the folks using the lowest data.
This guy sent one email.
To the bottom.
And we got an email from Nicholas Webster. Just a reminder, our New Zealand 3 strikes copyright law goes into effect August 11th, not September 1st. Don't we all just love the MPAA? And then he put a little emoticon.
Eric, you guys in France have Hadopi. How's that working out?
They're actually putting out, what, 10,000, they're trying to go for 10,000 a month of filings against people. And they're pretty aggressive about it. I know 2 or 3 people who've gotten their first warnings already. So
I hear that Hadopi has discovered that some of them are their best customers.
They are, but it's also spread the sale of all of us are using VPNs, and it's a pretty easy workaround to get away from it.
Yeah, see, that's the problem with this stuff. There's always a way around.
It punishes the stupid. That's all.
Yeah, it really does. The dumb and the slow and the stupid.
It's a regressive tax.
I got another email from Ben who has some very interesting information on how to read Social Security numbers. He says, finding the first digits of an SSN isn't nearly the trick that you might think it would be. The first 3 digits of your Social Security number identify the geographical region of your birth. The next 2 identify the hospital, if you were born in a hospital. So with your date of birth and a name that isn't overly common, like his, finding public birth records would be pretty easy. This would include the hospital you were born in and therefore the first 5 digits of your SSN, which of course means that everybody who uses the last 4 as a PIN has now pretty much given out the whole thing. But that's a whole other problem.
Yeah, and Ben's right. It's not that hard to figure out the Social Security number if you have those bits of information. But what was impressive about this Carnegie Mellon study that we talked about was they were able to do it off of a picture. They didn't start with any of this kind of information or even a name. They were able to use facial recognition and dig down and find all this stuff. So, whether that's scary or not is up for debate, but it's an impressive feat of data mining.
I'm just laughing at the chat room because they said this is what I was saying yesterday.
No, there were some folks saying it in the chat room too yesterday, but figured Ben wanted to clarify.
Ben actually has the actual.
Ben is the voice of chat.
There we go. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Ben. Don't forget, folks, you can submit stories for us to cover at our Reddit. TechNewsToday.reddit.com is the place to go. We have over 1,700 readers in there. You can join them if you're not part of it. You can submit stories, or you can even vote on stories if you just look at what's in there and say, yeah, I want to hear that. Vote it up. Thanks to PC Guy 8088, Spherodon, HTiz, Mindless 900, White Hat TX, Eliminate, Taurus, and more for submitting stories over there. We appreciate your help in helping us figure out what we're going to talk about and what you guys want to hear about. And don't forget the bricks, bricks.twit.tv. If you would like to have a brick right up here in our new studio with your message on it, go to bricks.twit.tv and you can purchase one.
There's bricks about you. Don't screw up Merritt. There's one for me. Iyaz hates fun. I don't know what Sarah has yet. I'm sure there's someone
We'll
there.
dig through. I bet there is one for Sarah. Big thanks to our guest, Clayton Morris. Always good to have you. Let folks know about the shows that you've got and where they can find them.
Well, our newest show, I'll give a nice plug for my wife, because our mommy show that's in our Grizzly Productions network, Mommy Beta, she hosts, and it's great. It's 4 moms who all had babies within like a few weeks of each other, and they're nerds too, which is cool. So they get together and they chat about that, and that's my good deed for the day. Check that out, Mommy Beta, over on iTunes or wherever fine podcasts are sold. It's a Grizzly Productions show that we're building slowly here.
Excellent.
At our network.
Does your son know that his mom is in beta?
Oh, trust me, it's a learning. And my show, Daddy on Board, oh my God, every week you never know what's going to happen next. So yeah, we're all in beta.
So what's the Grizzly URL again?
You know what? We're working on it. GrizzlyProductions.tv is where it will be, and it will be living, but they're all sort of scattered around. So just hit up iTunes or the Podcastosphere and find them all, because we're moving everything to under one roof.
Excellent. And Eric Olander, who I got to know by being a guest on Patrick Beja's The Phileas Club, thanks so much for coming on to my show. It was excellent to have the international perspective from you.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Let folks know where they can find you.
Well, if you're kind of stuck in some random hotel room outside of the United States and turn on your TV on France 24, I'm on Tech 24. Also on Twitter at EricF24.
Excellent. Thank you all for watching, folks. You can find us on the web, twit.tv/TNT. You can email us. Our email address is tnt@twit.tv. Or you can leave us a voicemail. Just give us a call. The number is 260-TNT-SHOW. That's our Google Voice number. We'll see you Monday. 300.
All right.
All right. Great show.
Congratulations, guys, on 300 shows.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
fantastic. Congratulations.